On this edition of the podcast, things that are lower than you might expect. Fundraising for the Democrats. Dave Levinthal joins us. The vibes in the conservative movement. Karol Markowicz joins us. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for February 20th, 2026. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here in Austin, Texas. Two of our faves, just people I could talk to forever. Dave Levinthal, Karol Markowicz, a great wide-ranging conversation with the money man. And Karol, who always has a very specific take on things, certainly from the conservative perspective, but this one kind of goes places. I initially start off talking to her about the Vibe-cession in the conservative movement, where things are, and it has some range. Talk a little AI. I'm very glad that we had Tom Merritt on a few weeks ago to get my priors down when it comes to where the fault lines on AI and politics are, because I've seen a lot of stuff. OpenAI and Anthropic have dueling super PACs that are both playing for things in the midterms. I've seen now 3 stories about town hall meetings where data centers are being debated. And then there's this conversation with Karol, which is very, very exciting. So let's not dilly-dally. Let's not faff about, as they say. Let's go ahead and get into our interview with Dave Levinthal. Well, we're going to talk to Karol Markowicz in a little bit on the Republican decline in vibes, but I want to focus on the Democrats here first, and partly because despite the fact that there's a lot of arrows pointing up, one that has been curiously stagnant, if not down, is fundraising. So we got to bring on the money man if we're talking dollars and cents. Dave Levinthal of Notice now. First things first, you're coming to us from the Notice office. I didn't know that DC still had newsrooms, but apparently they do. A rare sighting here for you, the video viewer. But tell us about your position at Notice, and then let's get into the money.
A lovely newsroom indeed. I'm senior editor here now, and I'm overseeing a lot of investigations and enterprise work, doing a good bit of writing on my own. We got some big projects in the queue, so very exciting time to be here at Notice, which is not even 3 years old, but hopefully we're kicking a little bit of tail here, and hopefully people are taking notice too, Justin.
We have already had Notice folks on here, and the work has been exemplary, something that I always expect whenever Dave Levinthal is involved. Here's what hasn't been exemplary: fundraising for the DNC and their official PACs. The money is coming in for some of their candidates, but why? What is happening here? And is there precedent for a party that seems to be on a favorable track to win the House at the very least?
Look, if you're Roy Cooper or Sherrod Brown or Mary Patola or John Ossoff, you're probably feeling actually pretty good about your money situation right now, because you're ahead of the competition. You're in a tight race, or ostensibly a tight race, and you're going to have what will likely hold up to be a cash advantage built in from your own campaign committee. But when you look at the national picture, Justin, it is bleak times for Democrats right now. Okay, Republicans are absolutely slaughtering Democrats in the money game. Now, of course, it's February 2026. It's not October 2026. No. But when we're already talking in the terms that we are about the midterm elections, which is very general election focused, despite there being some very competitive primaries throughout, Republicans have set themselves up to absolutely be in the better position than Democrats nationwide. There are a couple of structural reasons, overriding structural reasons, as to why that's the case. And then a little bit of history too, which I'll get to in a very quick moment. But right now you've got one behemoth that if we were having this conversation a decade ago, it wouldn't even compute, okay? Just because of the way that the money game has changed. And that behemoth is MAGA Incorporated, the flagship super PAC blessed by Donald Trump that has been an absolute juggernaut and magnet too for dollars not coming in from really so much the traditional Republican mega donor sources, but so many people who are in the crypto world, who are in the AI world, the tech world. We had a great story today. My colleague Taylor Giorno wrote it that talks about sort of these nouveau mega donors, people who have not at all been on the scene in any material.
These aren't the Mercers. These aren't the Adelsons. These are not who you would normally see.
Not any of them, okay? These are names that you might not even recognize, that you'll be hearing for the first time, but they're showing up on these super PACs and political action committees, FEC reports in the past couple of years. And lately they're showing up not to the tune of 4 figures or 5 figures, but 6 figures, 7 figures, and even in a few cases, 8 figures. And when you add that all up, 8 figures, and when you add that all up and you glom it onto others who have been active in recent years, most notably Elon Musk, that's where you're starting to get together those 7 and 8 figure contributions turning collectively into 9-figure dollar sums. And that right now gives MAGA Incorporated alone, they're well into the $300 million plus realm for available cash that they can bring to bear in the 2026 midterm elections. So Donald Trump may not be running for president again in 2028. However, with these midterm elections afoot, this is a super PAC that, especially taking advantage of some changes, not well known, but definitely well known to these super PACs, changes to law and how they can spend money or potentially will be able to spend money along with party committees. It adds up to a situation that is advantage Republicans and disadvantage Democrats.
Let's get into that for a second, because there is a big, I know it's a court ruling. Is it a Supreme Court ruling on exactly how super PACs can spend money, specifically in the rates of what they can buy television for, right?
And this will really focus in on party committees. So the RNC, the DNC, the D-TRIP, and the Republican counterparts, they will be able, if the Supreme Court rules as we expect that they probably will, it will loosen those laws and how party committees can coordinate their spending with candidate committees. And the real practical change that you are going to see is that candidate committees will be able to take in more money. And you just mentioned it, they will be able to leverage the advantage that they have over any super PAC. And that advantage is rates for advertising. If you're a candidate committee, you get a lower rate when you advertise on TV than you do if you're a super PAC. And sometimes the gap between what a super PAC is getting in terms of its advertising rate and what a candidate committee is getting for its advertising rate, it can be a 5-to-1, even a 10-to-1 difference. That's massive. So when you're talking about effectively the same kind of messaging, but one kind is 10 times more expensive than the other, you of course want to get as much of that as possible into the, I'm going to pay $1 for this instead of $10 for this mode. And the Supreme Court case, in short, if it goes through, if the Republicans get what they want and Democrats will get some of what they want too, then ultimately that's going to be a big boon for candidate committees in their ability to do exactly what we just described.
Would it be safe to say that this kind of gap between the Republicans and Democrats in terms of their main fundraising bodies and their associate PACs, there being this much of a lopsided nature is something that we haven't seen before?
You're always struggling for a historical analog with something like this. And I mean, meaning you, me, and everyone else in America. And I think after, for example, the Citizens United decision, when everything was just so completely scrambled, and then the speechnow.org versus FEC decision, which basically gave rise to modern day super PACs as we know them right now. There was so much tumult, and nobody really quite knew the rules. And there was a lot of innovation from a campaign finance standpoint being done. So that, I think, would be the time where we saw so much upheaval in the past 15, 20 years relative to what we're seeing right now. But I think we're in a period absolutely right now of upheaval on a number of different fronts, definitely on that mega donor front, on the small donor front too. And there's been so much innovation in the way that fundraising structurally works and the way that campaigns and party committees and super PACs raise their money when we're not talking about big dollar donations, but small dollar donations. And then we have Supreme Court decisions or federal court decisions, and there are others in the pipeline too, that could further liberalize, small L, liberalize the way that campaign money courses through the system. And the decision, or the pending decision that we just talked about, is probably the biggest of those at the vanguard of that new next wave.
Yeah, it is puzzling to me, because if you were to tell me a year ago that there was going to be a gigantic edge between the two parties, I would have probably assumed it was reversed. And yet I think that what you've pointed out is true. Not only do you have a little bit of major donor fatigue to the Democratic Party, their current leader has not, at least in terms of headlines, inspired a whole ton of confidence. You've got good headwinds, which is puzzling, because usually that means people are going to start cutting checks. And to your point, we are early. There is a big LA fundraiser. It's going to happen for the DCCC in the next couple of weeks that Jimmy Kimmel and Nancy Pelosi are running. So that'll put a few coins in the box, so to speak, but it's not going to be 300 million in the way that we're seeing it now. And primaries are happening now, like the ability, especially for outside groups, to kind of shade where the party wants some of these primaries to go. Like, now is the time where you start cutting those checks and you start buying that kind of ad time. And the Dems are kind of flying blind on it.
To an extent. And look, let's step back to the end of 2024 for just a second. Were Democrats always in the wilderness like they are right now? No, they were not at all. And this was just a year and a half ago when Democrats were completely ascendant in the money game. Yeah. And Kamala Harris had just appeared on the scene as the presidential candidate. Joe Biden had fallen. She is now taking the nomination. We are at the Democratic National Convention. People are just tripping over themselves on the Democratic side to donate, to give, to have the first woman president of the United States, to defeat Donald Trump and vanquish him once and for all. And the money is flowing. And at the end of the day, it was roughly $2 billion going the way of the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris / campaign, and roughly about, I think it was around 1.2 billion for the full total Republican Trump operation on the Republican side. And we all know how the election worked. So this is all to say that as much as we obsess about money, as much as we talk about the finances, as much as we're putting together the dollars and the cents, money is not a panacea.
No.
Money will not always win you an election. Money isn't always going to get you that victory that you so desire and pump so much money into in order to get to that point. But if you don't have any money at all, or you are absolutely behind the eight ball in every which way possible, then you are decreasing your odds significantly that you are going to have the kind of success that you want to. So this is not a money wins the day type of equation. No. It is money buys you more lottery tickets and gives you a better chance you're ultimately going to come away with the jackpot type of situation. And I think that's where we're at right now, Justin, is that it is the Democrats are not doing themselves any favors at the moment with their fundraising operation. And the super PACs that they do have, they're just paling in comparison at this point to the Republicans. Now, what are super PACs at their most fundamental basic level? Well, they are political committees that can raise and they can spend unlimited amounts of money. Okay, let's say that one more time. They can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money to advocate for and against political candidates. And these days they can do even a little bit more than that because of other court decisions that allow them to also pay some kind of operational expenses for candidate committees, field work, for example. So they've even grown in power and size in that respect. But that also means
because theoretically you weren't supposed to be able to coordinate between a campaign and a super PAC. Now you can just program for a campaign. I guess you're still not supposed to talk to each other. I don't know how exactly you would set up a logistical arm of a campaign without talking to the campaign itself, but you are allowed to pay for it.
Back when Mitt Romney was running for president in the Jurassic era of modern politics, he once said, and I paraphrase, "Oh, I can't coordinate with a super PAC with my campaign. I will go to the big house." Okay, so it's like, I'm going to go to prison if I do this the wrong way. And now it's sort of like, well, I mean, nobody thinks anything is ever going to happen if you cross that, now line that is so blurred to the point where you can't.
And we've seen it push probably even to a comical and detrimental place with like Ron DeSantis's campaign, who had his super PAC essentially running everything for his campaign, and that did not turn out well. So you can probably turn that lever up too high as he found out. But I mean, really the one big limiter on, aside from theoretically not being able to communicate, which everybody does communicate, is the expenditure on ads, which now that seems like it's gonna go away.
Yeah, and even now you can wink, wink, nod, nod, send smoke signals, telegraph stuff between the campaign and the super PAC, really without any fear that you're going to get in trouble, to the point of just, in essence, posting stuff on a website that will almost in code let the other guys know what you're doing, what you want them to do, when you want them to do it, how many resources to put behind it. Wouldn't it be great, Justin, if we had a cop on the beat here? Somebody at the federal government who actually paid attention to this stuff and said, well, hey, this is legal, and this over here is not legal. And if you screw up and you break a law, we're gonna investigate you. We're gonna fine you, punish you.
Yeah. Well, some kind of like a federal elections commission or something like that. I'm just spitballing.
In fact, you could even call it that, the Federal Election Commission.
Yeah.
Let's just call it that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it also be funny if the Federal Election Commission requires 4 commissioners at any one time, a minimum of 4 commissioners, to be on the job in order to do all those things that we just mentioned? Well, in reality, the Federal Election Commission has lacked 4 commissioners since May of last year in 2025, and still does not have 4 commissioners today. Who is the person who appoints commissioners, or should I say nominates commissioners, to the Federal Election Commission? Well, there's only one person in the United States who can do that. Do you want to take a guess, Justin?
I think it'd probably be the person who is currently building a ballroom at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, and might have his name on the Kennedy Center too, and be the spiritual force behind that MAGA Incorporated super PAC that has $300 million plus. So you can kind of see where this is going. And we joke and you can make light of it, but it's a very serious matter that the Federal Election Commission, as we stand here speaking right now, does not have the ability to pass rules, to enforce laws, to conduct investigations to their end, to do audits, can't even have public meetings, say nothing of doing any of the other types of high-level work that this agency does. Still taking in campaign finance reports and publishing them, but in essence, it's a clerical organization as opposed to any type of civil law enforcement and investigations operation. Donald Trump, we just reported, has nominated 2 Republicans to the FEC that, if they are confirmed by the U.S. Senate, would give a bare minimum of 4 commissioners to the FEC, and they could begin doing their job again. But the but is this: the Senate actually has to do that, and they have to have a confirmation hearing and have a vote and place them on. That could happen, I don't know, weeks from now. It could also happen months from now. And we could entirely be looking at a full year going by where the FEC has been completely put on the shelf. And also, to all the things that the FEC hasn't done for the past year, that's still waiting there for them. So these poor 4 commissioners who are there once the FEC starts up again, well, they're going to have a case backlog that is going to be a country mile in length.
Yeah.
And many cases, too, from previous election cycles that will quite literally die on the vine because of a 5-year statute of limitations for these investigations. I know I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit, but really trying to set the stage for all this money sloshing around in ways that we've never seen before. Well, there isn't even the most basic level of oversight going on at the time that this is all happening. And that is a huge deal if you care about things like fairness in elections and making sure that people who are in the arena, who are in the crucible of the election season, are doing what they are supposed to do by law that Congress has passed to govern elections in this sort.
And this is not the first time this has happened, right? Like we have had, we have had a pretty rich history of the FEC being undermanned to the point of being toothless. It does appear that, at least when it comes to the people that would be calling balls and strikes for their elections, there is a bipartisan support for defunding the police, at least when it comes to the ballot box.
Yeah, and even under the best of circumstances, the FEC often will deadlock, and it's an agency that has long been grossly underfunded in the estimation of people who watch it closely, who believe that the country should have a federal elections regulator for campaign money. And but we're not even talking about that. We're talking about the agency not being able at any level to
function,
its core functions.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Is there any, going back to the fundraising thing, is there a, like, if we're going to look at this calendar from where we are right now in February to when the elections are in November, is there a peak time for fundraising? Is that usually kind of in the summer when issues are sort of flying?
Yeah, spring summer is going to be prime time. So the fundraising party circuit in LA and San Francisco, Chicago, New York, DC, that's already starting to gear up. To a lesser extent, places like Dallas and Houston. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. So why do you go to the big cities on the coast and in Texas? Well, that's where the money is. So that's where the money is going to be found for those big ticket in-person fundraisers. What is going to be a huge story here, though, is whether Democrats in particular are going to be able to spool back up their money machine, or if there's going to be donor fatigue to the point that when people see the 29th email that they've gotten from Kamala Harris, are they going to just get off the list once and for all? Or are they going to say, all right, I was with you. I was with you before, Democrats. I will start donating again. And that's a huge question mark right now for Democrats nationwide as to whether they're going to be successful there. Again, this doesn't so much apply to individual races, especially really hot individual races where we know it's going to be a toss-up or there's a very charismatic, compelling candidate. That in isolation is not the problem that Democrats or Republicans, for that matter, have in particular. It's the funding of those national organizations who can sort of be the SWAT teams for the national party, who can go in and blanket a Senate race or a critical House race with ads up and down, or provide that extra help and that extra support and sort of a deep bench for those campaigns with staffers and resources and whatnot. That's a big question too. So
let me just give people let me give people a real world example of this, and specifically where the Democrats have kind of been asleep at the wheel up until now. And that's here in Texas for this Senate seat, the John Cornyn Senate seat. The National Republican Senatorial Committee has been all in on John Cornyn keeping his seat. Whether or not you think that that's a smart idea, they have dumped damn near $100 million before we even get to the primary vote, which is only now beginning here for early voting, because they very much believe by their polling that John Cornyn wins against anybody and that Ken Paxton, who's currently the front runner, loses possibly, or at least it's very, very close to the point where they need to spend a lot of money there. I mean, they apparently are so well funded, they even had the ability, as you guys reported at Notice, to quite possibly gaslight Jasmine Crockett into the race by putting out a bunch of favorable polls for her. Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, not only do you have no central force to moderate between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, but you've got a tremendous desire to raise money by yourself, which James Tallarico did this week on the Colbert program. He raised over, I think it was $2.5 million. It was initially announced that. It wouldn't shock me if it's over 3 or higher than that by now, as we are recording this on Thursday. Like, they're not able to do that from a top-down level because they don't got the gas in the tank to do it. The NRSC is cutting $70 million, and they're like, that's fine. It's worth it for us to do it.
Absolutely. And that speaks part and parcel to the point about individual races, individual candidates. There's an element of like, hey, guys, you're on your own here with the Democrats. And that's not true everywhere.
Yeah.
But that is going to be true in some places. And especially where you do have competitive Democratic primaries, that is going to be the case, too. And if you're Ken Paxton, then that's the case for you as well, in the sense that you're on the complete business end of the National Republican Party machine. And, you know, if anything, there are probably some Democrats, I am sure somewhere, who have been having conversations like, we probably want to give money to Ken Paxton right now, too, because we would love for him to be running against our Democratic nominee, whoever that turns out to be. So, yeah, the more money you have, the more problems you have, in addition to the more advantages you have. And these primaries are a very, very clear and present vehicle for how that all plays out in high-profile races like the one in Texas.
I'll tell you what, it is always good to talk dollars and cents with our pal, Dave Levinthal. Dave, where can people find you and all the fine work at Notice?
Oh, well, first and foremost, go to notice, notus.org, and read all our stuff there. We have an absolutely smoking website this week with a lot of really deep dive investigative and enterprise stories and some great breaking news as well. And you can find me at davelevinthal.com.
There we go. Thank you very much, Dave.
My pleasure. Thank you, Justin.
This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. It's where you need to go if you want to support the show. Always good to support the show. I greatly appreciate it. And boy, you know, we needed to feed the family. Although, boy, oh man, I'll tell you what. We've been very lucky with our little daughter, Bella, to have a good sleeper. We have been told it is among the rarest gifts that you can have with the little bundle of joy in your life. Lo, it is oh so more joyful when they get sustained sleep. I have met parents for whom that is not the case. And it is a grueling psychological journey for them. Well, friends, the bill came due. Little baby Bella over the last several days because she's got 4 canine teeth that are all poking through at the exact same time. That's meant that there have been wake-ups for which are not as easy to get her back down. Challenge. But your money helps. So TakePoliticsSeriously.com is where you need to go if you want to support the show. That's what brings you this update. President Donald John Trump said he will decide within the next 10 to 15 days whether to continue diplomatic efforts with Iran or order a military strike. He described recent nuclear talks in Geneva as positive, but warned Iran must agree to a meaningful deal or face consequences. U.S. and Israeli officials told Axios that any strike would likely involve a large, weeks-long military campaign that could begin within days. Iran has been asked to present concrete steps addressing U.S. concerns by the end of the month. The arrival of the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group to the eastern Mediterranean could influence the timing of the potential operation. So, a few things that I've heard and a few things that I have picked up from other media stuff. I heard that essentially everything that could be done operationally before a military strike has been done. Specifically, that means that every group there has, they are on high alert for an Iranian retaliation, and that sensitive things that could be attacked by Iran have been removed from the region. I would assume that that's probably equipment and people and stuff like that. The second thing was shout out to the Huddle. They are Sean Spicer, Dan Turrentine, and Rachel Bade. Phenomenal program. I am a fan of the morning meeting with Mark Halperin. That used to be the trio there, Turrentine, Spicer, and Halperin. Now they have a new show with Bade. It's great. Awesome. They have not missed a beat. Spicer says on the show Thursday, what you need to pay attention to militarily is that everything that is in the Middle East right now is naval. Meaning that's bombs that are going in. That's not boots on the ground. Now, does that mean that there's going to be no American boots on the ground? No, I wouldn't bet on that. I would probably bet on some kind of special forces thing, but something to pay attention to. I have no knowledge of anything I'm about to say from here. Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu specifically are very understanding of the idea that Iran is their big bad. That's the end all be all. The alpha and the omega of their regional problems is Iran. We know that Mossad went so far as to buy social media advertisements directed toward Hezbollah members for pagers that they could inject into the supply line explosives so at the right moment, working pagers would explode. That's what they did for Hezbollah. We know that Mossad is very deep within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. We know that they are very deep inside the leadership of the Iranian regime. My guess is that whatever the big plan is for Israel, for Mossad, that is the big thing that would happen. I have no idea what that is. Rumors that we had snuck Starlink into the country. You got to wonder if that's the only thing that was snuck into the country. Who knows? Who knows? We got a feeling that something's coming, though. Then again, I've had a feeling that something's coming for a month. Didn't happen. Okay, so we wait. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and later released. The arrest follows the newly released Epstein files that include emails suggesting that he may have forwarded confidential trade documents to Jeffrey Epstein during his time as a UK trade envoy. Mountbatten Windsor has denied wrongdoing. The files also contain photos and documentary evidence detailing his ties to Epstein, adding to past scrutiny, including a 2022 settlement with Virginia Giuffre. King Charles III said that the law must take its course and pledge full cooperation with authorities. The case marks the most significant criminal consequence for a prominent Epstein associate. it seems like the most potent fallout that we have seen from the publishing of these documents is essentially trade secrets. That national secrets have been exchanged. So those are the things that are legally actionable. We have not seen a lot that has been proven on the more lurid sex trafficking or pedophilia allegations, but this stuff is real. I mean, like, this is probably going to sink Keir Starmer's government, and it is now ensnared Prince Andrew. I have no idea where this goes. I am not an expert in British law. I know that they wear wigs. That's pretty much it. That's all I know. Finally, talks between the White House and Democratic leaders over funding for the Department of Homeland Security have stalled, prolonging a partial shutdown. Democrats are demanding major immigration enforcement reforms, including stricter warrant requirements, ending roving patrols, and unmasking field agents, proposals that Republicans have called red line issues. The White House has labeled the latest Democratic offer as unserious, while GOP senators accuse Democrats of using the shutdown for political leverage ahead of the State of the Union. Democrats argue that public opinion favors reform after recent immigration-related deaths and cite declining approval in Trump's immigration policies. Nothing's getting done until the State of the Union next week. Nothing. It's just not going to happen. They are going to be entrenched because the Democrats want to be seen as fighting in a big moment. And, you know, you have to wonder what's going to happen. During Trump's first address to Congress, you saw Al Green shaking his cane and being escorted out of the chamber. You had little paddles for the Democrats. They didn't cheer when a child with cancer got a special commendation from the Secret Service. There's a lot going on, right? A lot going on. And there will apparently be more going on from the Democratic perspective this time. There is a counter rally set to happen, being put on by MoveOn.org and the Midas Touch Network. They are a far left podcast organization, which has close ties to Diddy. You know, the brothers that founded that network, they are sons of Diddy's agent. Did you know that? One of them said that working with Diddy was very, very fundamental to his life. I wonder whether or not he bought the baby oil. I don't know if he's ever answered that. Anyway. They're having their own counter event. It appears that there will be some kind of disruption inside the hall. And that is because the Democratic base loves it. Look, the Republican base loves it when Republicans go after Democrats too. This is not a particularly partisan issue, although it is, you know, it is partisan. It is not that only one party is the party of decorum. Either are. But we'll see exactly how buck wild the Democrats get, and exactly how many of them even show up. You know, that's the other question, is whether or not they're going to be there. That's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And now, Karol Markowicz. It is always a treat to have an excuse to talk to our friend Karol Markowicz. You can find her on Normally. You can find her on the Karol Markowicz Show. You can read her writing so many different places. Karol, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Justin. Thanks so much for having me.
I want to ask you this. Is the conservative movement in a vibes recession? Now, it's different, though. I think the last time you were on, it was around when the Charlie Kirk assassination happened. That was a chaotic moment. There was a lot of things that were going on. And now it seems like we've kind of settled. Things have worked themselves out. Some things have gotten better. There are a bit rosier signs in the economy. And some things have continued to be stuck in the mud. And yet, when I look over to the right side of the aisle, I don't see a ton of people having fun.
Yeah. It's interesting because things are objectively going well if you believe in conservative philosophy and thought. I mean, you could say that, tariffs, for example, that's not conservative and Trump's very into tariffs. But short of that, I think he's living up to a lot of conservative promises. And it's funny because a lot of the time, when I am happy about what he's doing, it's because he's being a conservative. And that's not always the case with Donald Trump. When I'm unhappy with what he's doing, it is often because I feel like he's being a liberal. And he's such a cult of personality that's very hard for people to understand that, you criticize his policies when they're not aligned with your policies. But that's what I try to do with him. And it is interesting because I think he had some big wins, especially on the border very early. And people are just very, what have you done for me lately? And that's a problem in politics overall, but he's definitely suffering from that a little bit right now. He just got a lot done out of the gate. And now it's hard to run on, hey, I did this a year and a half ago.
Karol, I'm really glad you brought that up because there was a moment, and this is reported out by Mark Halperin, that there was a big meeting of elected officials. There was like 75 to 100 of the most important people that you're going to see on podcasts and television shows leading up to the midterms. They're going to try and carry the banner of the Republican Party forward. And at the head of that meeting was Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, quite possibly the most powerful woman in the world. And then all the people that in 2024 got Donald Trump elected, that built the message, that got this very bizarre coalition of Amber Rose and Nicki Minaj on the same team with the pro-life movement to vote for one person. And they said, all right, here's what you need to repeat. You need to repeat we're the reason why you got a bigger tax return. You need to repeat that we are for banning stock sales. We need to repeat that we are committed to bringing down the price of your groceries, and we are committed to buying a house. Here's what you don't ever mention, because nobody cares, is that we shut down the border. And yet, only a few months ago, when the election was around, there were two issues that were independent voter winners. It was the border, because it was a very clear crisis, and some of the trans issues that were very present. Both of those things today, and the border is, by any metric, nobody is saying that this is a problem anymore, which is kind of shocking considering how long it's been a problem in American politics. But the trans stuff is also not what it is today comparatively a year and a half ago. And you have to wonder, it's like, well, geez, you just lost two of your power pitches. Those were things that people were coming to you because you could solve. And now they're different. They're better. I mean, the border, you could say that it is kind of solved, which is, again, insane. It probably doesn't get enough credit or at least attention. Yeah. But it's nuts. This is why politicians don't solve problems. Because otherwise it's like, well, how do I get elected next time if I solve a problem?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the border was my top issue, and I continue to give Donald Trump credit for solving the border, because that was a gigantic crisis that unfolded over a number of years, and we were gaslit into being told it wasn't a crisis. I remember one particular Washington Post column that during the Biden years, that was like an analysis of the numbers of people coming in on the border. And it was like, oh, it's seasonal. And so what we're seeing right now is a seasonal surge. And it was in the fall.
It's transitory.
Right. And we're going to see it go down in the winter. And like in the spring, I was like, what happened? Because it didn't actually go down in the winter. But you mentioned banning stock purchases for Congress people. I think that could be a very popular issue. It's I think in general in politics, there's this sense of like, if you could find an issue that people care about, that they don't realize they care about, that has the potential to be something very big. And something like Congress people buying stocks and making a ton of money off of information not available to the rest of us is an easy one, I would say. Except, of course, they're probably going to need Congress to pass that law. So tough.
Although there's more of a bipartisan stance on that than there was in the past. Nobody really wants to stand up and say, no, I want to
continue my insider trading.
Yeah, like my insider trading is actually really important and I'm awesome at it. So can we please stop player hating and allow me to push this Palantir stock?
Yeah.
I don't know what the pitch is going to be. I also don't know what environment is going to be there for the midterms. And this is part of the reason why, I look at some of these numbers and I'm like, look, this is going to be a blue wave. The question is whether or not they take the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And then part of me is like, yeah, but the Democratic Party fundraising is like a disaster. And also it's like, whenever the Democrats get away from what Trump did today, I'm against it. It's Looney Tunes. Like it's some of the hysteria is like next level. The fact that like Jon Ossoff, who I'm more bearish on Ossoff than other people, but he is, I think he's better today than he was the last time I saw him in person. I'm very excited to go see him in person. The last time I saw him, he reminded me of just the kind of Obama impersonator, stock politician that the Democrats created for a while.
Right.
But now he's got all these plaudits and now has inspired Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie with this Epstein class thing. And it's like, so you really want to make Epstein like your entire personality? Like that doesn't seem to have a lot to do with affordability. It doesn't seem to have a lot to do with some of the other issues there. So I don't know. I just don't know. By the time that we get to November, I know the voters are going to be like, hey, my groceries are expensive. I need for them to be less expensive. But I don't know which side is going to appeal more to the idea that they can do something about it.
Right. That's always the thing. It's like, when Trump kind of mocks the idea of talking about affordability, he puts it in quotes and he just sort of makes fun of the idea. But I get what he's saying. The Democrats constantly talk about affordability, but never actually make anything more affordable. In fact, a lot of the times the affordability proposals make things more expensive. On things like groceries, I think they will be able to say groceries have gone down, but it's like, it doesn't really matter. I remember saying this during the Biden years where Democrats were saying we're not in a recession. It's just a vibe-cession. It just feels like a recession, but it's not really a recession. I remember writing about this and being like, yeah, we're not in a recession, but that's not the only financial concern that people have. I mean, their eggs are $8 and that's the problem. So I think the groceries one is like largely fixed, but if people are losing their jobs because AI is, coming at us rapidly or housing prices continue to be astronomically expensive, I don't think they're going to care that eggs are now $2.50. They're going to say, oh, I have these other financial problems. So it has to be kind of big picture fixing people's personal economics. And that's a tough ask.
I think it's hiring. I think what the Republicans would really need to have a shot at doing the impossible and holding the House, let's say, would be you would need some like blockbuster hiring. Like you'd have one of those crazy 400,000, 500,000 hiring months where, people you are constantly around people that are getting
new jobs.
Like if that's the case, then, historically, inflation doesn't go down. So when it shot up under Biden, it didn't matter what Donald Trump was saying about I'm going to fix prices. Fixing prices means they're not going to accelerate as fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they are going to collapse. And in a lot of ways, you don't want that to happen because it usually means that there are core problems with the industry that prices collapse like that. What you need is hiring. What you need is wage growth. What you need is all this other stuff. And that's where I think there is this gigantic question mark of AI. We might look back on this as kind of the AI election because that's a double-edged sword. Does the AI boom cause hiring because now there's more companies, because now it's easier to do things that were harder to do before, and you need hands on the wheel even if they're doing more?
Sure. That's the optimistic take, yeah. Or the pessimistic version.
Is Andrew Yang right? And everybody is about to get thrown out into the field, and everyone's going to have to learn to be an electrician,
right.
Or else if you're not servicing the machines, then you're not going to have a white collar job anymore. I
also don't think that servicing, the machines or being the electrician is a safe path anyway. Like when I think about, I have kids who are teenagers, and I think about the future. I guess like 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, plumbing is a really safe career, or electrician or something like that. But now, if the idea is that these robots are coming at us in the not too far off future. I mean, I had somebody on my show recently predict we're going to be buying robots at Costco in the next 5 years. If that's what's happening, they're going to be able to be electricians and plumbers also. And I don't know where we go from there. I mean, my 16-year-old daughter, who has been raised with a very healthy fear of communism, is like, I don't know how we don't end up in a communist system where the government just has all, supports all of our needs while the robots do all the work. And, I don't know either.
I would make so I'm a big AI optimist, for the record.
Okay, good.
And also I work with
I'm skeptical,
OpenAI,
but
so I work with OpenAI. So that's,
willing.
You can shill me. I can mix that into the stew of how much of a shill I am. But look, I would say that AI, if we are going to follow the trends of every other massive technological breakthrough, it creates more jobs than it loses.
Yeah.
It does lose some jobs. Like at a certain point, the computer eliminated people who did more manual arithmetic, because that is just something that was so quick.
Yeah.
But the question of job elimination is not on whether or not an AI agent can do a menial task faster than a human. It's whether or not a cluster of agents could do something faster than a human with a bunch of agents that would have more emotional intelligence or business savvy to make a decision that would go in a different direction. I think it's no doubt going to change the world. I think a lot of things are going to come down in price, and a lot of it's going to be knowledge. A lot of it's going to be legal stuff and medical stuff, and the way that we handle a lot of that is going to be different. But I don't know. I see it just as much as a possibility of people being a boon to entrepreneurs who now say like, okay, well, for me to get from here to where I need to go, I now need less people and I need less money. So I'm more incentivized to run forward. And no matter what, there's going to be no agent that wants to start a food truck. But humans who don't want to do math or don't want to do their taxes, like they want to start food trucks all the time. Like that's a big thing. So I don't know. My hope is, I'm also not much of a pessimist in general, but like my hope is that's the case. Whether or not it's right now, I don't know. But I know that the White House needs someone to be hiring.
Right. They need the wins, and they can't, blame AI. Plus AI is like also propping up a lot of the stock market right now.
Well, the stock market is all AI expenditures. So it's like, there's that. That's, everybody. Here's the other thing. If AI costs jobs, I'm going to tell you right now, OpenAI and Anthropic, the two new companies that are coming up in this revolution, are hiring people like left crazy, and right. Yeah. They are onboarding people, the likes of which, and they are the closest to this technology that you could possibly get. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's an optimistic outlook on this whole thing.
There we go.
Maybe not communism yet.
Not communism yet. The one thing that I did find interesting is that while I'm reading about the meeting in DC, I'm also reading about aircraft carriers and strike groups and tankers that are moving into battle positions with Iran, and that talks are now collapsing. You've got Israeli reports literally right before we came on that were saying, within their purview of what they can report, which means they have more that they know that they're not allowed to report.
Yeah.
This is happening and it's going to happen soon. My perspective is, if this is weeks long, like is being reported, weeks long military engagements have a tendency to become months long military engagements, and months long military engagements have a habit of becoming years long engagements. That's going to be the story of the midterm one way or another. And I don't think that it's favorable to the Republican Party or the White House.
Yeah. But if it's a success, and if it's a fast success, like say Venezuela taking out Maduro, or even the first strike on Iran, then that's a different story. Trump does not seem like he is interested in even weeks-long entanglements. So I don't know. Yeah. But as we were signing on to this, a lot of my chats are blowing up with news that it might be tonight. So by the time this comes out, it could already be a go. I think you're right that it all depends on how quickly it goes and how successful it is. Trump's got some wins in this column. I mean, the Maduro thing,
that's crazy.
The first Iran strike, those are huge foreign policy wins that he, again, is going to get no credit for in the midterm, because who could remember all the way back then? Like, what have you done for me lately? And how much is my life costing? Those kinds of things are easy to forget. And he can try reminding people, but that's not what they care about.
Yeah. Venezuela's oil production is so shot. That's part of the reason why, he bet right in a way that nobody would put in a policy paper. Hey, all of Venezuela are kleptocrats. They're evil, but they're really just kind of pay for play evil. So we can just take out one dude and tell the next person in line, who is also a reprehensible human, you're going to play ball? And if she says yes
or no,
then we can send diplomats there in 3 weeks, which is what wound up happening. Nobody in DC would have wrote that in a paper and been taken seriously.
No,
and yet that's what happened.
Trump,
and it seems like it worked.
Had he said, this is what I'm going to do when I take office, he would have been laughed at as usual. So he did it. So that what goes on in the Middle East over the next few days, if anything, because we keep coming to this point where people are like, okay, it's on tonight, and then it's not. Again, I don't know. Today feels a little bit different, but who knows? That will play into how his popularity is right now. But again, I don't know if it lasts to the midterms.
I've never thought it wasn't happening, and here's why. And I know, as somebody who follows Israeli politics and issues, Israel wasn't complaining. That's why. That's why I knew it was definitely still on, because usually when America's not doing something that Israel agrees with, we usually hear about it. It usually breaks into the media on some level, and it's like Bibi's being oddly quiet. It's oddly quiet, because usually there's at least some, not maybe a direct shot, but there's there's an existential evil, and we need the time is ticking. Like, there's very Netanyahu-y noises that are made. We didn't hear any of that, and I'm like, okay,
it's happening.
They're on the same page.
It's funny because a lot of the news out of Israel that I've heard has been like, Bibi doesn't want this, and I don't believe it. I think that's just something that they say. Yeah, yes. I think that's just something that they say. But that is the push is like, Israel just they're in this moment of calm after October 7th. They haven't had this moment of calm in a long time, and they want it to last. They want the tourism to come back. They want the flights. They want all of that. I don't buy it entirely, because I think his legacy does rest on this, but I imagine it's a question mark in the administration in Israel.
I don't know why. Well, the one way that I could look at everything that Donald Trump has done, as disparate and at times weird as it has seemed, is if you look at it through the lens of China. Because everything that he has done, Panama Canal, Greenland, Venezuela, Iran, if you only look at it through China's influence either in our sphere, or the possibility that they could make a move in our sphere, or like with Iran, that's their number one oil supplier.
Right.
Like, we're in a different world. There's a question of like, can China go to war if Iran is not their primary oil supplier? Like, that's the only way it makes sense. Or at least that would be the only way it would make sense if Netanyahu was actually not on board.
Right.
Like, But I don't think that a guy who has said Iran's regime needs to, who's been tweeting rising lion memes, since Twitter was invented, would be like, no, please don't. Right. No, leave the Ayatollah in place.
We want to have a nice spring.
Tourism.
Yeah. True. Very true.
But other than that, I don't know. I mean, and that's the question though. Like, do you know when we say, okay, we're gonna do something in Iran? I kind of knew with Venezuela it was going to have to do with Maduro. Like, Maduro's going to get killed.
I didn't think we'd be kidnapping him, though. I don't know.
I didn't. Well, especially in the speed that,
in just a few hours, in and out. Like, what? Yeah, I didn't think we could do that.
I made this point from the moment their operation began to the moment that Maduro was on the boat taking the pictures with the sunglasses and the earmuffs. You could have played Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. and it still wouldn't have been over by the time that was from stem to stern done. And our friend Ryan Macbeth, who was on the show, pointed out that, it's because they spent the length of time to shoot that movie rehearsing what they were going to do. And that's why it went so fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know what they would do in Iran. Iran's such a different situation than Venezuela. You can make the argument that there's just as many kleptocrats involved in Iran's government. Obviously, Mossad has a very deep, they have deep ties into what goes on there, considering some of the operations they've been able to pull off inside Iranian space. But is it the Ayatollah on a boat tonight on the way back to New York? We're going to put him in the same prison with Diddy, Maduro, and Luigi, and we're going to shoot a reality show? That would, I don't know.
That would actually be a very American outcome to this.
Exactly.
I'm in.
But I don't know what it is. Is it occupation? Are we putting somebody in there? That's the one thing that I've not... Yeah. Even when they were like, we're negotiating about nuclear stuff. I'm like, so they can pretty please say they're not going to rebuild the thing that we blew up?
Right. But they won't even say that. They're Iran isn't going to say publicly, we're not going to rebuild, any kind of nuclear capabilities. There's a lot of saving face. So I wonder if it's if they actually are negotiating with the Ayatollah to get him out, and have passage to Russia or something.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going to end up happening. Something more along the lines of regime change with him saving face, that he fought back against the United States, but they were too strong with their Zionist weapons. Who knows?
Yeah. A certain kind of space laser. We're not Kanye style. We're not going to say what kind of space laser, but there's a certain kind of space laser. I maybe that's it. There have been kind of rumors that there are voices inside Iran that are hey, we want this done just like anyone else. I don't know whether or not it's overthrowing the mullahs or I don't know enough about the internal politics as to what would happen. I know it's not going to look, if we are looking at Donald Trump's foreign policy, it's not going to look like it would have looked like under Bush and Cheney.
Of course, right.
There's going to be tankers on the ground and we're going to roll in and then we're going to have a bunch of dudes from Iowa.
It's not even the same planet. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to be a bunch of dudes from Iowa taking pictures in the palace. That's not going to be, it's going to be something leaving as many people as possible that can run the country to run the country.
Trump is a softie. He really isn't in a lot of ways. He, talking to the protesters in Iran and saying we're going to, we stand with you. We're going to help you and all of that. I think he means it. But he's also not doing the Bush conversation about, building roads and schools for girls and blah, blah. He's not doing any of that. He's we're going to try to take these people out. After that, it's up to you. I think that's the way it's going to go. Right.
Well, I think, and this is, you see this both with Russia and Iran. And again, it's maybe I'm just Charlie Day with the board and I'm just drawing Pepe Sylvia lines here. But it's the stuff you've heard out of Russia is like, oh, they're looking for a big economic package with the United States. They're going to, we're like, our biggest thing always to Russia was like, nobody else, you better hope that you make a deal with Trump, because if a Democrat wins, you are not ever plugging into the world economy again. Like those same State Department people are going to come back and they are going to make sure that you're dead in the streets. Like it is only Donald Trump that says, hey, let's find a framework where you're allowed to sell gas to Europe, which has been buying your gas the entire time they've been complaining about invading.
Right.
Like, let's just find a way to do that where everybody is above board. And you have to wonder whether or not the pitch is the same to Iran, which is like, hey, what if we just removed all the sanctions? The way that has to happen is the mullahs need to get on a plane to Dubai and the Ayatollah has to learn to speak Russian. But other than that, like everything
else stays the same, right?
Can go. Like we can, this is not going to be overnight. Everybody gets put up against the wall that ever supported the regime in the way that the old kind of neocon nation building playbook was more on the side of it. And even then, to my conspiratorial mind, I'm like, the only person that negatively benefits is China. China is the only person who's like, whoa, hold on. No. We need all of their oil. Like we need everything from them.
That's the thing. I think that it happens now or it doesn't happen. And I'm not sure Donald Trump even takes this kind of chance closer to the midterms, because like you said, it could end up being months. It could. I don't think so, but it could. And I just don't think he's going to even wait that long to see what happens.
I mean, Rubio's been on a hot streak.
He's really good.
If it goes months, I don't think his hot streak will be. I think that's snake eyes. If
that's
he's rolling,
that, right?
If he's rolling dice, then like, the first attack, boom. The first time anybody knew about it was when Donald Trump said it was over. The Maduro thing, a little bit of chatter on Twitter. Next thing you know, memes of shaded Maduro on the boat. Like, this would be something different, but at the same time, and I've said this before, if that regime falls, I think it's probably the biggest geopolitical moment since the fall of the Soviet Union, just because of how many spheres it would affect. Like it affects the Middle East, it affects China, it affects us, it affects Europe. Like there's
Russia,
nobody, there's nobody that it doesn't directly affect. But I have no idea what it is. And it's weird. The one thing that was good about the neocons, they were on television every day saying what they wanted to like have everybody on board. They were like telling sympathetic stories. If this were if this were old Fox News, Bill O'Reilly Fox News, then the number one story would be mangled Iranian protesters. That we would know all of their names and there would be, ribbons to denote how much we cared about them. And that's why we needed to commit X, Y, and Z.
But that would immediately fail. That would not be allowed in
as it turns out,
Republican
we tried
Party.
It didn't work all that well.
Right. It's like they killed all the little girls, schoolgirls anyway. So it just doesn't work out in the end. But it also wouldn't pass in today's Republican Party whatsoever, because that kind of argument is just not what people are looking for anymore. They want to know, how does this benefit America? And it does benefit America. It brings a level of stability to a region that is, very famously unstable. It hurts our adversaries like China, like Russia. It would be a good thing for us. If it doesn't happen, does it change that much for us? Not really.
No. The other thing that's happened under the Trump administration, and this is where, I think Pete Hegseth is somebody that he has gotten a lot of criticism for a lot of different elements of his job. But the one thing, whether or not how much credit you want to assign to him, the American military has looked very
amazing.
Lethal.
Yeah.
Very, very
right.
Like pinpoint accuracy, lethal. When the rumors are weeks, I don't know what pinpoint accuracy over weeks looks like. Like,
Yeah.
I know what, you know, again, like under the time of the Dark Knight lethality looks like.
I was pro Hegseth the whole time. I thought he would be perfect for this role. And I think that has played out exactly correctly. I think he is very good at being Secretary of War. And the American military has just never been, in many, many years, not never, but it has not been in many, many years, this symbol of lethality in the way that they are today. The Maduro strike on its own or the Iran strike on its own would both be like stories that we tell for a generation. And yet we had 2 of them in 1 year. We may have something resembling a third. It's just impressive. And it's so far advanced to where everybody else is that it makes you like proud. You're like, yeah, that's us.
Well, especially, I mean, to that, I mean, for if you are in this frame, and I don't think that many people who are going to vote in the midterms are, but if you are just looking at the state, you know, if like college football rankings, we're looking at our like global
we're
military
right at the top.
rankings, then like we're Alabama blowing out Florida by 40 points.
Right.
Like this is like, because our 2 biggest rivals are China, which just disappeared their largest military leader for questionable Chinese reasons.
Whoops.
And then Russia, which thought they were going to have a quick
cakewalk
little
in Ukraine,
fun
right.
long weekend adventure in Kyiv, and we're I think either this week or next week coming up on the 4th year anniversary.
My God. And they're not any closer. Like nothing is even remotely, and just so many dead. And they
just a meat grinder where, like, you know, there is only like a very cynical push to say that you could save face and what they've done, but they were supposed to be the 4th largest military, the 4th most lethal military, and they suck. Like that's bad.
Like,
you should not
completely
You should
terrible.
not like. We should be like angry about the new puppet government in Kyiv.
Yeah.
And instead, you know, Zelensky continues to be a major figure on the world stage. But I don't know whether or not he gets credit for it. Here's the only way he does. The only way that Trump gets credit for it in the midterms is if we're looking at like in a post-Iranian, post-Islamic revolution Iran.
The women are in
Venezuela.
bikinis and like.
Well, the Instagram accounts are one thing. Maybe there's new Tehran influencers. But gas. If all of it, we've had pretty cheap gas. I know here in Texas, it's in below $2.50 a gallon in some places. If we see like sub $2 gas kind of more generally, because you know, we've kind of settled a lot of the more malcontent oil markets that are now putting into the global supply. Like, I don't know. That's the kind of thing that you could see him getting credit for. But I am not a energy policy expert to know whether or not that would even be close to happening.
Right. Yeah. I could see that happening. And you're right. I don't know that he gets the direct credit because the gas is already not so high in most places. I mean, California doesn't count, but in most normal states, it's already not that much. It's not like the crazy numbers we saw, you know, like 5 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't know. I don't know how I feel like there's also so many conversations to be had about the individual races, and Democrats are pissed off and they're coming out to vote in large numbers. And I get it. It's an off year, of course, but if they're running crazy people, I mean, we'll see. But, you know, I heard somebody in one of my chats recently said, like, oh, in Florida, David Jolly is going to be our next governor. And I was like, who? What? Like, we even have Democrats? Like,
yeah.
You know?
That's, a colorful race, obviously, in Florida for governor. But I will find a hat and eat it if David Jolly is the next governor of Florida. I don't, for many different reasons. Start at voter registration and then work your way down. For many different reasons, I don't think that that's going to be the case. And the fact that I think Floridians in general are very happy with what Republican governance has brought them, with notable home insurance exceptions. But even then, that's a kind of larger problem that's being dealt with. The Vindman candidacy, I think, is very funny for people to take him seriously nationally. Because I thought he had a decent initial ad, but I was trying to warn people. I'm like, if you are not familiar with Vindman, that's about as charismatic as you could possibly make him look. Like he's not an electric. If you're not really dialed into him telling the truth on MS Now, like he's not a guy. Yeah. He's not going to look at home at a dock bar in
No, he's
Broward.
not. Yeah.
Like that's not going to be him.
He's from my ex-Soviet Jewish world, which is so overwhelmingly conservative. It's like being a Democrat out of like the Cuban community in Miami. It does not exist. And I always like to say, like, every ex-Soviet Jew who is a liberal, pretty much that I know, is famous. Like they're all only the famous ones. So he just fits right in with that.
He does. Well, I'll also say this. There's been a lot of conversation about the Hispanic vote and whether or not the Republicans are losing it. If this administration flips Venezuela and Cuba, they are never losing a Hispanic vote in Florida ever again.
Yeah.
Ever again. Like that is a wrap. Like that is, I joke on the show that Marco is looking for his statue on Calle Ocho. Right. Like that is the Cuban kid that flips Cuba is going to be a hero forever in that town.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that statue is very likely going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Any other races that catch your eye here in the midterms?
I'm not following it super closely yet, like the individual races. I don't know. I think that a lot of things are trending the way you would think. I don't see any surprises yet. Like you, I'm thinking that Democrats take the House. And likely the Senate.
Although
too.
I don't know if it'll be by much, even if it's a big swing, because like there's just not that many.
There's not that many.
In that meeting, it was like this is like again the top brass for if Hegseth is doing that to flip Iran, this is the political version for the Republican Party that is like giving out the marching orders that will last from now until November. And they're like, we have 17 races we're paying attention to.
Right.
That's what they care about. 17 House races and then the 7 Senate races. And it's like, so if right now the Republicans have, I think eventually after they fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's spot, it'll be like 4, like a 4 vote lead. So let's say they lose all 17. It's like, okay, so you're going to be down by 13 votes, which in any other era would be like razor thin. It only wouldn't be razor thin now because we've been living 4. In these psychotic margins.
Yeah. And, and it might not happen. It's all sort of, we're in February and November, it seems close, but so much can happen. It is the Trump era. There's an avalanche of news every single day. Like the vibes can all shift by like next month.
Nothing has done more to cloud the conservative vibes than the Epstein stuff. Do you think that has the fever broken on that? Is it close to being over, or is it still going to be a cloud now that 3.5 million files have come out?
I'm seeing it hit the normies like right now more than ever before. Like the sort of the people in my life who are not very political, but maybe are right of center. I'm seeing it on their social media. So I don't think the fever has broken yet. I think it's going to be a little while. I mean, like another story that
Well, by the way, in your neighborhood, I'm sure there's a few people checking their own names.
Oh, So I actually came across one of my friends' names in it. Like this was a random one, but then I started looking up everybody's names.
Oh,
and the friend whose name I came across had absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. She's a real estate agent. And an email that she sent got forwarded to him. She doesn't even know, like no idea. But there's a lot of people like that, completely innocent people being caught up in, your name's in the Epstein files.
Yeah.
But then, you start looking everybody up and you're like, did you live on the Upper East Side? Because then you may have had some connection to this guy.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think
feel like
Burchett was the only one who didn't vote for it. And his point was like, hey, this would reverse 250 years of procedure where we don't release underlying evidence in cases, because it's a good idea to not release underlying evidence in cases that don't get charged, because people just become guilt by association. And he was the only voice there. And you want to know what? It's like Sheila Jackson Lee with the Iraq War vote. If I was ever in Congress, I'm just going to be the one. I'd like just on kind of everything, just because it feels like good. Like if it goes wrong, then you're like really smart, because now I think he's right. Like for every bit that's interesting, and I'm glad we have some transparency into a lot of this. Right. But
a lot
you have
muddled.
to weigh it. You have to weigh it of like, all right, so now there's this gigantic ink stain of all these emails that have been taken out of context. And it's like, all right, well, how do we reckon with that? Like beyond just the purity of like, well, we're doing it for, justice, and you may have done these things. And it's like, maybe, but to charge people, we need victims and proof and the burden that usually comes along with prosecution. And what I see is a lot of embarrassing emails and not a whole lot of the other side of, but then again, I don't know what people were looking for with all this.
Right. And some people should be embarrassed. There should be some shame that they didn't care that this guy had a sex crime charge against him, and that they were so enamored with him having a plane and fancy friends. I don't know. I think to me, the lesson is do not be wowed by rich people, and tell your children not to be wowed by rich people either. They're really not that impressive. And if that's all they got, be suspicious.
And don't model. No one should be. If we have AI now, we don't need
models anymore.
It's a bad field. It's just a bad field filled with bad people. That is the lesson in that. I say now as a new father of a daughter. No more modeling. Right. Abolish modeling. Karol Markowicz, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Justin, thank you so much for having me. Really one of my favorite shows. I'm at the Karol Markowicz Show and normally on the iHeart Radio network, but you can download the podcasts anywhere you get podcasts.
Phenomenal shows, the both of them. Go download them. Karol, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Justin.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Our producer is Will Saddleberg. Send me a email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share video clips of the show. TikTok, Justin R. Young. Instagram, Justin R. Young. Twitter, Justin R. Young. And on YouTube, you can find us at Politics. And now, an angry email. Hello, the young American, actually the old American, Justin Robert Young, a.k.a. Jury, a.k.a. JRY. I've been a Canadian listener since 2016, and I've been a year-long Substacker, and boy, do I regret it. I remember when you had your dumb yellow bird as your logo in PX3. I even bought your biased Blue Wave t-shirt that you had to reissue, and no one even gets what it means in Canada. I hope you ate the shipping cost. But recently, things have changed. The mandate of heaven has blessed the liberal god, Cardi, in Canada. Your constant rage against our country, Canada, has been extensive. Not only have I unsubbed to politics, but the political orphanage and the congressional dish with Jen Brady are in the dumpster as well. All the best, Heaton and his suit and ties, and to Jen's volleyball or whatever. Maybe we'll do one angry email at the end just to keep people on their toes. I like that one. That one's a good one. Hey, who won the women's gold medal in hockey? I didn't catch the game. I didn't see the game. Who won the gold medal for women's hockey? I don't know. Just asking questions, Because hockey's like our fourth most popular sport, you know, maybe even 5th, depending on UFC, you know. It's popular in Canada, though, right? Canada? You guys really like hockey? I just didn't get a chance to check it out. So just email me back and let me know who won the gold medal. Just asking. Just asking. If you would like to support me, it is paypal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. You can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Paying members get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. $99 for the entire year is the best and easiest way to do it. Well over 150 episodes of PX3 for under $100. Guys, it is a bargain, but if you want your name read on the end of the show, one place to do it. That is our foundational tier, including Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Nick, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, Neil, Casey, oh yeah, it's Adam, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Michael, Matt, DP4 Bongo, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Paul, Gloria, a dog named Checkers, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Doc. You want your name read on the show? One place to do it. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. We will be back next week. I wanted to give this time, but I need to talk to my boy, Kevin Ryan, about the Epstein files. I got a lot to say about it. I know he has a lot to say about it. That's next week. We will hopefully also be joined by Catherine D. She is a warrior, man. I think she is pregnant. She was recently in the hospital, so all of our best to her. But she says she's going to come do the show. She's an absolute stud and a half, and we're going to be excited to have her because I don't think anyone covers internet culture like Catherine D covers internet culture. It's phenomenal. She's great. So we'll do that then. Until then, is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss. Three.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.